The Unheard is a new horror thriller that has been released on Shudder. It is directed by Jeffrey A. Brown and stars Lachlan Watson. Now, it follows the main character, who's played by Watson, who is someone that is deaf. And at the start of the film, she undergoes a new experimental surgery that gives her back her hearing. She goes back home because her and her dad are supposed to be moving out of this house. She goes back on her own to kind of start packing, start getting things together. And once there, she starts hearing noises, hearing voices, seeing things on TV tapes and stuff. And it becomes this paranormal kind of thriller in the vein of films like The Eye and What Lies Beneath. Think The Eye, but instead of vision, it's hearing, and What Lies Beneath, in which you get, a ghost kind of haunting in order to try and send messages about various things. It's a cross between those two films, but it's not as good as either one of those films. I would say it's pretty competently directed. I also think Lachlan gives a pretty good central performance. She's always engaging. What I will say is the film is way too long. Half an hour too long, easy. This could have been seriously trimmed down. The pacing on this is way off. And I think as a result of that pacing, it also becomes way too predictable. The story isn't that original, and I think had they sped things up, got that pacing faster, and just made it more of just a race along thriller, it wouldn't have given you time, I think, to kind of wallow in a lot of these kind of plot points that you then see coming as a result. I think they could have skipped over some of that predictability as a result. But because the pacing is so slow, they take forever to get wherever they're going. You feel like with each plot point, you get there before the film does, about 10, 15 minutes before the film does. And so you always feel like you're predicting the next 15 minutes of the movie. That kind of cripples the film in many ways. But the final act is really well handled. There's a reveal at the end, which, again, like I say, because by that point you kind of see it coming, you know what's happening. But once that reveal happens, everything after that is pretty tense. It's really well handled. It's quite action-packed. You don't know who's going to get out alive, and this, that, and the other. And as a thriller, the film works best in that final act. So it does have a good payoff. Which I think earns a lot of brownie points for any film, to be honest. I always think that a film can redeem itself quite a lot by having a very good final act. I wouldn't say this is very good, but it's certainly a solid final act. There's a character in this film played by Brendan Meyer, who I know from The Guest. I was looking at him all the way through this thinking, what do I know him from? Who is that guy? I've seen him in something. Of course, it was The Guest, but he was quite a young boy back then. Now he's an adult, he's a man, and I was like, I don't know where I've seen him. The Guest. So yeah, I really liked him in The Guest. I think he's good here, but the role he's given isn't great. It's one of those roles where, when there's like something paranormal going on in a horror movie, and they have a character that has a quirk about them that just so happens to be useful. Like, thank God they had that quirk, because without it, we wouldn't have a clue what's going on. And it's one of those characters where he's there for the sake of the writers wanting to be able to explain things. And it sticks out like a sore thumb. So yeah, that, no offense to Brendan Meyer, he does what he can with the role, and he's perfectly fine in it. But the role itself is just a bit, it's kind of off. It's a bit of a sour point in the film. I think one of the other things that the film does do well is getting this character's kind of senses of hearing as she's been given back her hearing after years and years of not having it, showing us what that's like for a person, showing us how that would affect their state of mind and the joy at various points of having that back again, and the, you know, like really listening to things that you've not heard for so long. I think they do a really good job with that. Of that helps me get into the mindset of this character. It helps me realise what, you know, the things she's lost, the things she's now gained. So ultimately, it is a film with a lot of the hallmarks, the makings of a good thriller, but it just overstays its welcome. It goes on a little bit too long, and it ends up being just a little bit too predictable for me. So yeah, solid, but it ain't gonna blow you away. If none of that puts you off, do check it out and tell me what you thought about it. If you have seen the film already, also do let me know what you thought about it. Leave your comments down below. Thank you for watching this review. Until next time, cracking.